So the power of mantra. We obviously, as mystics, at some point all come across some kind of mantra and work with it and maybe see results. I've seen incredible miracles actually happen. And so I'm going to speak about a little bit the miracles I experienced through mantra. So what is a real mantra? To me, we have two types of mantras in this world. One that are actually the sounds from divine reality. If you remember the slide, the picture I had here, the difference between this world and the difference between the divine reality. The divine reality actually is beyond this world. And this world was kind of encapsulated to be within the firmament that the mystics called it. So that we are, in a way, separated from divine reality, but at the same time, we originated in it. And so then there was the reincarnation trap. Reincarnation is not at all natural, but it became completely normal for this world. So the system was constantly just closed system, closed energy system. And when you have a closed energy system, it also is a very hungry system because it really just has to keep what it has within itself, since it cannot get energy from the outside, from the divine reality. So the idea that the being who created it, that we spoke about, was that the being needed as many immortal souls within the system as possible to generate energy for his world. Now, lately I've been sharing a lot about this because it's the end of it. And it is the end of it. And the end started actually on February 2nd, 2024. So we are still in the same year, even though, it's not really 2024. But that was the first impulse within the causal plane where it was said and spoken, and actually many heard it, that life will no longer harm any part of life. So that was the first impulse. Then the next thing that was really huge that happened this year during the World Congress on Illumination. Again, it's spoken always in the ethers. So when we have clairaudience, or if we have clairvoyance, we see or hear, even though it doesn't seem like anything changed on this planet. And so the darkness fell. And I know some of you who were with us at the World Congress on Illumination, you heard the same, you saw the same. Darkness fell. But that was not yet the final stamp, the seal. The final seal was 11/11. 11/11 sealed that big old chapter. And so since 11/11, it's really just a gradual dismantling, gradual purification of all that was within that trapped system. Personally, when I meditate, we now have much easier access to see into other realms. And actually, I don't know if that's the reason why people are seeing so many things in the sky these days since 11/11. Because there has been a huge actually peak, right, in seeing things in the sky. The government calls it, for example, the drones. But we are seeing, I believe, into the fourth dimension now. And within the fourth dimension is where the forces of darkness, as well as the forces of light, worked from. And so they were invisible to humans. They didn't want to be visible. But of course, occasionally a human would encounter an angel from, even higher realms than just the fourth dimension. But what we know as heaven and hell is the fourth dimension. It is actually the lower astral and then the higher astral. And so we can call it heaven because anything beautiful can be created in the astral, but also all the ugliness, of course. So since 11/11, we have had the dismantling of the false matrix. So our system is now opening up. And so we are opening up to the divine reality. Let me see where I have this visual here. I'm just quickly gonna click down again so that we look at the visual. And, you know, this is how I was able to see it when I saw the matrix from a distance, what it looks like. That truly it was like the drop of oil in the ocean. And so now it is dissolving. And what is dissolving about it is actually the boundary, the firmament. You know, you can even see some ancient drawings when the mystics could see it. It almost looked like there was something that was separating us from divine reality, and they would always draw this kind of membrane, and beyond the membrane was the divine reality. Well, that is what it is. The membrane is dissolving. As I, explain, is that the being who actually was the origin of cosmic evil has been reintegrated into oneness with all life. That was the only way to make Divine Mother complete. This is a huge story, and again, I shared so much about it, but it's somehow very puzzling, isn't it? For Divine Mother to be complete again, this being had to be reintegrated, because everything had to go back into oneness. We cannot have separation within oneness of creation. And so these mantras originated in this field that you see here as the divine reality, as the purple light. That's where these real mantras come from. They come as the true sound of divine reality. And then we had other mantras that people invented beautifully, created, gave them a lot of meaning, and they invented them in that world that we have been part of. So I always recommend working with the mantras of the divine sound. And usually they are syllables, and very often they have the syllables like ma, ha, for example, shi, va, and all these syllables that we know, actually they are within the divine reality. And so when we chant or sing a mantra that originated in divine reality, we are actually making a phone call. And the phone call, the mystics call it also a channel. It digs a hole through the membrane of this world, and it goes all the way into the divine reality. This world that we have been part of had a lot of dirty energy, and dirty energy actually manifested, and we could see it with our middle eye, with our inner eye. We could see it as layers upon layers of like sediment, like if you had rocks and sand, and you would have it around the person, because they would be covered in this energy. We called it karmic liability, karma, simply energy that was not liberated. Liberated energy. Energy always needs to be liberated back into oneness and love. Energy itself, right, is actually neutral, but how we use it depends on us. And so if energy was used for, negativity, for example, then it creates these sediments around the person. And so then a mantra, when the person is singing a mantra and they are creating the right vibration, it is really about vibration. From my experience, and I've experienced miracles, actually many, many miracles with the mantras, and I saw how when you chant the mantra and you nail it, you really get the tone, the vibration, the frequency right. It can, you have to chant it maybe 100 times, and maybe one will be the right tone. But that's why we want to repeat it. Because when we find the right tone of the mantra, then that is the right phone number that drills the hole through the false matrix, through the sediments around us, through the sediments of this collective unconsciousness, and it reaches divine reality. And because it created a hole, we can say it created a channel, because now we have a channel to divine reality. And so now these channels from the divine reality can flow into us and flow into this world. That's amazing. It's like digging holes to divine reality. It's really incredible. So that's what the mantras can do. That's what a mantra can do. So the mantras that I have worked with myself a lot and still work with them is, for example, the Lakshmi mantra, and I will play it as well so that we can chant. And I experience complete healing of the heart. And, healing of the heart, this agenda that the beings of darkness had was a very elaborate trap, and it's beyond even science fiction, or it is just like the craziest science fiction. And so sometimes when the truth seems too crazy, people don't believe it because it's too crazy. How could that be? Come on. There are still many people in this world who believe that we are the only species in this cosmos. That's incredible. But if you, tell them, no, there's definitely other beings and even dimensions, they tell you absolutely no way. It's not believable to them, right? But I think the true nature of this false reality is like that too. It's too big and it's too elaborate. But this is the end of it, and this is the final dissolving. I think it might take a few months. I don't know. I'll keep looking, and you guys keep looking. We'll keep looking into the ethers and always using the light of God and love of God, and of course the mantras too, to keep cleaning. So the mantras that I used in my life is the heart just suddenly opened one day, but in a very profound way, when I was chanting the Lakshmi mantra. And this is the mantra that is also on the album of Henry Marshall. And the album is called Mantras 2. So he has many different volumes. So on CDs, I guess, I used to have it. It said 2. So if you want to work with it every single day. Of course, we are building momentum. But again, just focusing on letting go, which means not thinking, but being in the vibration of the mantra, attuning yourself. The meaning of the mantras to me doesn't matter at all, actually. I think it's just actually confusing, because when we start translating cosmic sounds into, English or whatever language, I think we lose the fullness of it. We limit it to a label. So we don't want to do that. I usually don't look at the chat often until like when I'm done, but I definitely appreciate all that you guys post and that you guys talk to each other in the chat too. I'm also curious how you work with these things. So I always look eventually, just so that you know how I do this. So eventually I'll scroll down. And so that was the mantra that truly can open the heart. Now, does everyone in this world have, to some extent, a closed heart? I think 90% of humanity, yes. And the reason for that is not that we are bad, not that we have some wounding, but because the beings who created this false world, they actually used certain technology so that humanity did not have open hearts. It was by design. And I think they managed really well, right? Like the most heart opened probably are little kids. And then it's kind of like descend into the first 3 chakras. And so leaving the 4th chakra behind. But again, the rainbow children that you are, they have the design of the beautiful, loving, sweet, kind heart. And now that heart will be liberated more than anyone can imagine. It really is beyond even, again, the typical state of being. When our hearts are liberated, it is the greatest state of being. And we will all remember what it is like to be innocent again, meaning completely unburdened. And it will remind us of when we were little kids. And even if the childhood wasn't great, it doesn't matter. We still had it within us in such amazing intensity. And so the Lakshmi mantra can do that. It can open up the shell, even if the shell is really thin. And, this matrix was designed to put that shell around the heart. It was actually numbing, the false matrix was numbing our life force. And life force, as we know, it needs to be fully ignited. And it gives us wings instead of the sleeping serpent at the base of the spine, So the false matrix numbed people's life force. And of course, the entire system was set up, the education, the governments, the financial, the work, the money, the way that we've lived in this world. It was all about numbing life force as opposed to keeping it ignited. So little kids, when they come from these days from the divine reality, and as we talked about yesterday, the rainbow children coming even 80 years ago, 90 years ago from the divine reality. So they came in with incredibly ignited life force. And this ignited life force is actually the force of love and passion and joy. And so I hope that all of you remember yourself as that when you entered. And very often, of course, the false matrix wanted to beat us down. And so I think by the time we were 10, it was mainly very, very dormant. And they made sure that we don't move. And so the mantras are bringing us back to that aliveness. Yeah. It was, it's so profound what happened here. And it's amazing that this is dissolving. I mentioned before that I saw an interview with an Indian engineer, and it is on YouTube. And he did incredible research into the Vedas. He studied even the holy science of Sri Yukteswar. He studied other ancient texts around the world. And he was doing precise calculations to see when is the absolute end of darkness. That came, of course, and was allowed during Kali Yuga. And so he says that on the 21st of March, 2025, will be the absolute complete end of Kali Yuga. And not that we might be exactly in it, we already might be slightly out of it. But he says that all that was in Kali Yuga, all the evil, all the darkness, all the suffering, will end on the 21st of March 2025, according to his calculations. Yes, thank you for posting it in the chat so that everybody can watch it. It's truly fantastic. His information is amazing. He's an engineer. He calculated it all, and I fully align because what we have seen now in 2024 would only indicate that something huge has to be revealed to humanity, because we can't continue like this. And, maybe through the habits that we have, we will continue with the old self, but this is the birth of the new divine self within us. Very, very interesting. Yes, thank you for posting his name and the interview. It's fantastic. A few years ago, Divine Mother took me into 4 futures of humanity. And that's the last time that I was able to go into the future timelines. And so, it was about how we need to actually, in this world that is, moving towards so much artificial intelligence so fast, that we also represent the aspect of nature in this world. And that we still are connecting not to just technology, because some people totally are giving up their, humanness to be fully technological. And there is a movement that Divine Mother spoke about several years ago, and she called it transhumanism. And now it's really happening, right? It's really happening that some people are looking forward to being transhuman. And so, yes, she showed these 4 futures, and 3 of them didn't look so good at all. And it was the futures where humans completely just become very AI, what we call it, ruled by AI, whether it is artificial intelligence or just, technology that makes them less and less natural. And so then there was the one future that she showed where we as humanity still keep saying yes to nature, where we realize that nature is the teacher. And, not only nature as the one that we see here in this world, but all of nature, the sun, the stars, the flowers, the trees, the rocks, the animals, the sounds of nature, the elements of nature, the elementals of nature, the earth, of course, herself, Maravati. And so every day, I think about these things all day long, like you do. How can we actually be the rainbow children on a mission where, let's say, the vast majority of people want to have chips in their brains to be super smart like a computer, but we still say only yes to nature. And so we keep honoring the human as the body, as the divine. So to me, that's important. And part of that nature, of course, is this beautiful tool that we have that is sound of divinity. Unlocking the system of us, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So that was the first mantra, the Lakshmi mantra, which can open up the heart again, allow the Kundalini to become a dragon, which means a serpent with wings, so that we become the awakened one that can fly, that has wings. And so it's our energy, that's the transformation of our energy. And then the other mantras that I use and recommend always is the sky mantra, which is a sky mantra is a mantra that creates these powerful energetic circles all around us, just like you actually see here, the ripple effect. And so I recommend every morning having a few minutes of your sky mantra, Shiva mantra, connecting with Divine Father. So we have Lakshmi as Divine Mother, Shiva as Divine Father. And then, of course, we have a few other mantras. And even Om to me is a mantra. And so doing a few Oms a day, throughout your day, whenever you want to, whenever you feel like it, whenever you need to. And also when we move through this world. When we move through this world and we are surrounded, by a lot of energy that might not always be shining, then it's good to internally attune to your inner sound. So even without sounding it out loud. But also, if you want to, as you walk through, the supermarkets and, I don't know, transport, airports, why not to sing a little hum of little Om and just staying centered? So Om is massively powerful. I don't live a day without Om anymore, and it really changed in 2020. In 2020, it was spring equinox when Divine Mother revealed the incredible power of Om. Now, I've been doing these calls, I think, since 2020, maybe 2019, I don't know exactly, but if there is just one thing that is so important from all that we do, it's to chant your Oms. So what I experienced with Om, around 2018, I just could not sleep. It was like, the energy started to change, the divine self started to download, and all these revelations started to come. Divine self was presenting all these important past lives and future missions. And so meditation replaced the sleep. And so I was just laying in bed, and my husband would be asleep next to me, so I didn't want to move too much, do anything. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm awake every night. So what I will do, I will simply meditate while laying down, and I'm gonna just breathe through the spine, focus on the third eye, and chant some Oms in the third eye. So kind of like developed this very simple technique that is a mixture of many things that Yogananda taught. And then one day, the Om somehow just opened the third eye in a way that it opened as a portal. And suddenly the etheric body, which we all have an etheric body, was able to exit just really incredibly through the portal of the third eye into the next dimension. And then, as I suddenly was able to do this again and again and again, it was simply chanting Om. So then my Om became like a steering wheel. Suddenly I was, in what I would call parallel realities and also higher dimensions, and different multidimensional experiences came through just chanting Om in the third eye. But I was chanting it silently in my third eye. So then I was navigating a whole new reality. And all of this hopefully is also useful to you, because this is who we are. We are this multidimensional, amazing beings. And so the Om suddenly became my steering wheel. So first I got out of the body, but suddenly I was, in another reality. And in this other reality, I needed to navigate it. Everything was new. I didn't know exactly, what do you do? How do you move around? But you are your much, much higher self. You know much more. You are in your expanded state, and it's a very ecstatic state of being. But I learned from my experimentation that if we are in a multidimensional reality and we truly are experiencing it, then Om becomes your steering wheel. You can easily then navigate. And then I also realized that every time I would chant Om when I was in another reality and I would be, basically out of body, then the Om would allow me now and again to open a portal, which means an opening to the next dimension above it. And everything became like a tower then. The Om would always allow for the etheric body to actually enter into a higher reality, and then a higher reality, and it just kept going, and then a higher reality. And so the Om chanted not only in the body but also out of body really showed me the magic of Om. And I came into a reality where I was in this very high dimension, and I wanted to go higher, of course, because that's what we want to do. And I wanted to go all the way. I knew that there is something higher than what I was. And in this dimension where I was, it was what people would call the Shambhala. So I was in the dimension of Shambhala, and often in our traditions, even the guy who did the interview, I don't know his name. I have to look what you guys posted here in the chat. The one who did the interview about the end of Yuga. So he too spoke about the king of Shambhala. And in his research, he found that there are two different kings. One is the demon of the earth, the king of the earth, and he called that a demon. And we've had many names for that being. And then there is the king of heaven, and he refers to him as the king of Shambhala. So I ended up in Shambhala through chanting Om. And in Shambhala, you have a lot of friends, because suddenly you are part of a very beautiful, loving, supportive collective of what I would call very great beings. And so here I was, after I chanted my Om all the way up to Shambhala, but then I didn't have enough life force. I just ended up feeling, like you need life force as energy to move you through these different dimensions. So energy is really your fuel. It's why we want to do Qigong. That's why we want to do practices like that, to have energy. Energy is really fuel that can push us through these different worlds if we want to. And so then these beautiful, great ones in Shambhala, they saw me, obviously, and they started to chant Om for me, because I felt tired. And they started to chant Om on my behalf. So that's again the power of Om and the power of a collective. Hopefully all of this is useful. I don't want it to sound like I'm telling you something about myself. It's much more a collective story. The amazing potential that is within us, if we just keep going. If we just keep going, as Yogananda says in the video that we created, the daily strength. Never give up. Never give up. You know, I see it all around me all the time, right? I have shared meditation with all my friends, with all my loved ones, and some people just don't have the passion to keep going every day because they don't see results. But it's just a little bit of patience, and after the digging through the sediment, it just gets so great. So, so as the beings in Shambhala chanted Om for me, it gave me power. It gave me energy. Their Om became my energy to be able to go all the way, all the way, all the way to the divine self. So that is the power of Om. I've seen much more when it comes to Om. So that's why I want to inspire everyone. The Om itself is always powerful. But now and again, we really nail it. Now and again, and this is my experience, I could chant million, maybe I have chanted million Oms, maybe more, I don't know by now, since 2020 every day. And very, very rarely do I hit the right tone. And how do I know? Again, I was chanting Om, and I was again doing what I recommend doing, chanting your Om out loud whenever you want to, need to, feel like it, but at least once a day, a few times, and then often in your middle eye, your inner eye, creating an inaudible vibration within yourself. So I was again doing that, came out of body again, and this is very recent actually. And again, I'm in this amazing other dimensional reality. And then I realize that, as I've spoken about, that our spine also goes into other dimensions. And first, it of course goes into the astral. And astral, as you know, can be beautiful but also ugly. It's the heaven and a hell. But we want to go, of course, through the hell and get to heaven. And not everybody gets to experience, the bad. We might only experience the beautiful. And things have changed too within the astral. And then I noticed that there is kind of like a ceiling to how far the astral spine goes. We all share the same design. So again, hopefully this is useful. And so I had this idea. What if again I chant Om, and what if something opens up beyond? And so I chanted just one amazing Om, and then there are other beings, of course, with you too. And so I asked them if they would join with me. And so we all chanted Om together. And the vibration was just right. It was just perfect. And the ceiling of the astral popped open. And it opened into what we would call the causal plane, the most perfect plane beyond astral. Again, Yogananda, he spoke a lot about these two different planes, the astral plane, which can be very beautiful, and he himself enjoyed the astral too, because he was able to create whatever he wanted with his thoughts. And even the origin, of course, of the human being, it originates also as a design. It has to be designed in these planes before it descends into the world of matter. And so suddenly that Om opened up, really, the ceiling, and suddenly the world that is very much the solar world revealed itself. And so that's the power of Om. If I hadn't had these experiences since 2020 and this abundance, I probably would not be chanting my Oms every day. Because, Yogananda said, chant your Oms. I'm like, why? He's like, you always have to chant your Oms, but explained it to me, why? But then Divine Mother in 2020 explained the power of Om to me, and it was at spring equinox. And since that day, I passionately share this, and with the stories that go along with it as the result of Oming, because if you stick even to just that one tool among all the many tools that we have, you will see incredible results in your life. So that would be the next mantra, Om. Of course, if you like to cook, I love to cook, I cook all the time, several times a day, then a good meal is usually several ingredients. You taste it, you add some spices, you taste it, you add some nice sea salt, whatever salt. You taste it and you say it needs a little bit of lemon. And I feel our divinity is like that too. Little bit of little bit of Lakshmi mantra, little bit of qigong, little bit of silent meditation, little bit of brain waves, little bit of everything makes a very good divine meal. How to open the crown chakra? I see a question here from Maria. I've never tried to open any chakra at all, ever. It's never been my focus. I always focused on just simply doing the work and see what happens, you know? And that to me delivered the best results. Because I don't know if my next logical step is opening, the crown chakra, the third eye, who knows? But if we just do all of this a little bit, the diversity makes it so much more fun. Then magic starts happening and nature takes over. I really love that nature takes over. And so that means we go with the flow. And so if the flow is that the next thing your crown chakra pops open, it will. Like a beautiful flower, it will open. And so with a little bit of Om and a little bit of everything else, magic will happen. There is no other way. We are in the world that will, we are moving beyond the karmic patterns, and we are moving beyond the recycling law of the karmic wheel. That's wonderful, because the wheel actually existed, and the wheel was put in place by the being who created the false matrix so that they can recycle souls and bring new souls in, so that they can get trapped, so that this world has energy. So now, since that's not going to be so anymore, it's going to be going with the flow. Going with the flow. And the flow will show us what is next. And it will be just so reliable. Divine Mother is the flow. She is the river of love. She's also a spiral though, because she always expands her cosmos into more. And so now we are in a whole new design. And so with just a little bit of, these sounds, practices, and mantras, we will get very, very far into the divine reality. Another mantra that I would recommend is something that should replace, ideally, all our lower thoughts. And that is, I am. And we can do I am, or I am that I am, I am that I am. And that too is a fantastic, incredible, powerful mantra. I heard from a friend that when his mom was a little kid, she would just have this wonderful idea, and she would be taking a bath with her sister. They were little kids, and she just said, I am that I am. And in that moment, instantaneously, she had an out-of-body experience, and she went straight into her etheric body. And little kid, just, of course, nobody's a little kid. We do have little bodies. But she just said the mantra. And that, again, is a powerful mantra. So let's take a look at how we can use these together. And also, what is the lower human mind that needs to actually stop thinking? So, when we were little kids, that's the best example. We were surely not thinking the way we do as adults, and not because we become more intelligent or we have more experience. As little kids, we don't have random, repeating, intrusive thoughts. We don't have judgments. So when we look, I don't know if you remember looking at your grandparents, you didn't think, oh, they look old. Never. We didn't judge that way. We just were so loving. We were all love. Everything looked perfectly fine to us, didn't it? It's only through the way that the Matrix trained our mind to constantly have judgment about something. Even if we are very loving, we are constantly assigning labels. And so this constant assigning of labels is lack of freedom. And so we need to go back to the non-thinking mind, but the present mind, the creative mind, the excited mind, the adventurous mind, the inspirational mind. Little kids, inspired. So I remember, I don't know, you surely remember too, when you were playing with your friends and you were maybe 4 or 5. It was so exciting. It was all fun. We were always present. We opened a book that had pictures, and every picture would be an adventure. It would be like multidimensional reality, wasn't it? Isn't that just incredible how magical our mind was? The schooling system, of course, that we've had here is that it was designed by the beings and originated, of course, in the fourth dimension again. As I said, these beings were never really visible to humanity because they never wanted to be known or seen so that no one even suspects that they exist. I've been thinking about it a lot after I met them, and I met them many times. And through, I think, the activation of the rainbow body is actually very, very, very powerful. The rainbow body is what would be considered dangerous to those beings who created the trap, because to get out of the trap, the rainbow body would immediately get the person out of the false matrix. That's why these beings who activated the rainbow body, they disappeared because they actually are able to leave this world through the rainbow body. So after I realized who these beings are, and Saint John Baba Wamayama on YouTube, if you listen to his channel, he met these beings himself, and he did it through fasting. That's how it also was done. I don't think we need to do that anymore that way, but he fasted for 40 days, just like Jesus. And of course, when you are in the false matrix and you start fasting like that, but again, I wouldn't recommend it anymore because it's not necessary anymore, such a long fast, right? Unless that's what you really want to do. But I just want to explain why that worked also. So, in the false matrix, our body became an instrument for the dark beings to operate through. That's why some religions then decided that the body is a sinner. But the body originally was not anything to do with any sin or darkness. The body was a being of light originally. After the world got trapped, the beings who trapped the world started to work through our physical bodies, because where else will you block life force? So they had to block it in the physical body. Where else can you give people the feeling of reality, right, other than through the body? So they manipulated the physical body actually the most. The most manipulated aspect of us was our physical body. That's why since 2020, we're going through such a big purification of the physical, actually, of the DNA, of the cells, of everything within the physical body, including our nervous system, our senses, all of it. So, sorry, I'm just gonna have some water. So these beings wanted to create systems in which all life force is ideally blocked to the highest degree possible, so that no one can have the energy, the spiritual energy, to do something like activate their rainbow body, which is our true nature, and actually disappear from this matrix. So the rainbow body would truly pierce, it would burst a hole in the false matrix. And these beings, they wanted to remain unknown, invisible, totally behind the scene, so that everyone in this world would find some kind of comfort with the world and be okay with many conditions. And at the same time, there was this huge operation behind the scene, constantly taking away from us our truth. And the truth is our divine self. But instead, they really wanted us to become almost lifeless, if that makes sense. And so when we do these practices, when we awakened our Kundalini fully, when it becomes the dragon, when it becomes the Quetzalcoatl within us, we become dangerous in a way to the false matrix. Because we suddenly pierce the veil, and they don't want to have holes in the veil. But I think by now it's okay, because obviously enough of us came into this world and we kept piercing the veil. Yeah, Yogananda said one day something very strange for his time, I guess. And he said, Satan in his nature is electromagnetic. So that would explain how the field around the earth was manipulated to give us the illusion that we then called our reality. And we can do that through the manipulation of the electromagnetic field. And that's one of the reasons why I think now we have so many sightings, more than ever before. We have thousands of sightings actually every week now. But my question is, are we seeing only the forces of light? Because the forces of darkness, right, even though the system is falling apart, even though the big boss is gone, even though the matrix is almost dismantled, there are still beings who want to be part of the other team. And to me, this is kind of the final battle that also the engineer spoke about. And I think it's happening right now, actually. But it's again behind the scenes, but we have better visibility. So this is all a big story. But with that, it is great to be chanting your mantras, to be attuning yourself to the divine reality, which is fully accessible to us now, like never before, and it will only get better, of course. And especially I'm excited about March 21st, the equinox of 2025. So let us chant a mantra together. So we have the lower human mind you're familiar with. I'm sure we all are. It is the one who just randomly thinks about things, usually repeats the same amount of thoughts. Usually it's about 70,000 thoughts a day. It just randomly thinks. It's like comments on our life. Sometimes it's very nice, sometimes not nice, mostly not so nice. One day it can say what we're doing is really good. Next day it will doubt us. So that is the lower human mind. To me, it's like a blender. And in the blender, if you put 70,000 thoughts in the blender, the mind works like the blender. You know, the thoughts just keep coming up. It's blending the thoughts. What should I tell you now? And now this is good, this is bad, I want that, I don't want that, I like it, I don't like it. That is the lower human mind that is part of our illusion. So now we are stepping into the new mind, which is the mind of the divine self. And the mind of the divine self, we have to remember, works completely differently. It is much more silent, mainly silent, but it is the solution of all things. It is massively unlimited. It is always creative and inspirational. It is the mind that is like the inspiration just falls into your higher brain center and you have clarity, complete clarity, complete knowing that fell into your higher mind from the divine self. When Oren speaks about it like the seed of inspiration. And so that is the higher mind. That's why when we want to switch off the lower human mind, we can simply constantly chant internally, I am that I am. If judgment comes in, I am that I am. If stupid thoughts that are not useful come in, I am that I am. And not giving any power anymore to the false matrix through the habit of the old mind. It's okay to have no thoughts. It's okay to completely be free from the thinking, but because the divine mind is a creator mind, the creator does eventually engage also in things like architecture of creation. And that means that if you are now in your creator mind and you want to create something that is outside of the false matrix, within the false matrix, beings were deliberately made slightly or very dissatisfied. It depends on the degree, but the old matrix, if you can actually even picture it, was using technology. It was using programs and codes, very advanced, very, very advanced technology to create certain situations for humanity. It is hard to imagine, but it will be revealed to us. Some people already have seen the revelation. So let's say that would be a program, and the program would be a complete code, like code in the computer, and it would be a code for suffering. And then they would run the program in the false matrix, and everyone's susceptible to it, because of course we still have our divinity. So our divinity, if it is worked really well, it creates a magnetic field around us, and it makes us actually not susceptible to the false matrix. And so they would run the program, and the program would be the code for suffering. And so the mystics who saw it, they didn't know how to explain it to humanity because, humanity was really asleep or just slightly, able to comprehend, but they didn't want to fully reveal it because they couldn't, and for many reasons. But when they wanted to tell us just something is off, they would say, suffering is not real. Have you ever heard it? Have you ever heard some mystical teachings where they said suffering is not real? That is what they were saying. Yes, Isabel. And so they were trying to tell us there is a program. We didn't even have the words for this type of technology or the computer programs, the code. And so they were trying to alert us and say, hang on a second, it seems real, but actually it is not real. It is technological program that runs through this reality, and we can catch it like a virus. You see, if the person didn't have a strong electromagnetic field by themselves, which very few people did, because it requires a lot of work in the false matrix to create your own freedom within a prison, and that freedom is the electromagnetic field of a person. No one can be free from the matrix unless they have a very juicy apple around them, which is the electromagnetic field, the rainbow body, the light body. That's why we have been doing what we have been doing. Yeah, that's right. And so, how not to catch the virus, right? The virus of these programs that ran through this matrix is to constantly be building yourself up. But again, now it's the end of it. I do think that it's actually accurate. You know, in China, when we were meditating in the temples, I shared this before, but I saw that the ascension, which is a process and it has many stages, that it will be complete in the year 2031. It was definitely the year of the pig. And so that's my greatest hope, that it was the next year of the pig, which is 2031. And so we are now, in a much more free world, much more liberated world energetically. It's all about energy. Ascension. So I do believe the ascension process will be complete in 2031. And we wanted to chant a mantra. Let's chant a mantra. Let's build up our field. Let's make our field gorgeous, juicy. And so we will have this beautiful mantra. This is again from the album of Henry Marshall, and it's from Mantras 2. And this is a beautiful mantra to Divine Mother, to the auspicious one, to the one who is the true Mother, so that she blesses us. This is for blessings, receiving blessings, receiving auspiciousness from Divine Mother. And so I'm gonna find it in my library. Just a moment. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful mantra. And I love about this mantra one thing, it's divine feminine and divine masculine singing together. Sorry, I'm still looking for it. Here it is. This one is actually from Mantras number 3, so from the 3rd CD.
Satya Narayani Namostute Sarvamangala Mangalye 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 Satya Narayani
So this is just a little bit of the mantra. It's a long mantra. And so this is from Henry Marshall, and the album is called Mantras 3, A Little Bit of Heaven. Satya Narayani. Thank you is the name of the mantra.